bus driver over in eastern Hangzhou has given his life to his passengers after saving them. He was hit by an object that crashed through his windshield.
Tragedy strikes when we least expect it, leaving behind scars that last for generations. Throughout history, there have been moments that have shocked the world, changed lives forever, and left a deep mark on our collective memory. In this video, we'll delve into the most tragic incidents in history, exploring the events, the lives lost, and the enduring impact they've had on the world. Some will leave you in disbelief, others will inspire a deep sense of empathy, but all will stay with you long after you've watched. Sydney's near-death experience. On March 1st, 2024, Sydney found herself in a life-threatening situation while driving across the Clark Memorial Bridge in Louisville. It all started when Trevor Brandom, a 33-year-old man with a revoked driver's license, made a reckless decision that would alter Sydney's life forever. As he swerved into oncoming traffic to avoid stalled vehicles, he caused a chain reaction of collisions. Sydney's truck, caught in the chaos, was left teetering dangerously over the edge of the bridge, hanging precariously over the river below. In that moment, Sydney was trapped. For 40 agonizing minutes, she was immobilized in her vehicle, helpless and unable to escape. The fear of the truck plunging into the water below was overwhelming, and she knew she couldn't swim to safety. Every passing second seemed like an eternity as she clung to whatever hope she could find. Despite her panic, the reality of her situation set in. She was at the mercy of those around her and could only wait for help to arrive. Fortunately, rescue teams were able to reach Sydney just in time. After what must have felt like a lifetime of waiting, she was saved, though she emerged from the ordeal physically and emotionally shaken. The trauma of that near-death experience left a deep impact on her. It's clear that Sydney was forever changed by the events of that day, and in the aftermath, she made a vow never to cross that bridge again. The bridge now stands as a haunting reminder of the day her life hung by a thread. Meanwhile, Trevor Brandom now faces multiple charges due to his dangerous actions. His reckless decision cost Sydney a terrifying and traumatic experience, and the consequences of his actions will have long-lasting effects on both his life and Sydney's. Now it's time for the topic of the day. A recent photo has been circulating online showing a dramatic blaze engulfing a bridge. But is it really fire, or a chilling still from the Brazil Bridge collapse? On December 27, 2024, a section of the Juscelino Kubitschek de Oliveira Bridge in northern Brazil gave way, tragically claiming 12 lives as vehicles plunged into the river below. What do you think of this heart-wrenching event? Share your thoughts below. The tragic fall of Elena Struthers Gardner. On November 22, 2018, Elena Struthers Gardner, who was well known for her ability to persevere despite having a spinal deformity, passed away in an unexpected accident. While at home, she was drinking from a metal straw when she lost her balance and fell. In an instant, the metal straw pierced her eye, causing a fatal brain injury. The injury was severe, and despite efforts to save her, Elena succumbed to the trauma, leaving her loved ones in shock and disbelief. This sad incident is a sobering reminder of how commonplace items that many people use without giving them much thought can occasionally have disastrous results. The metal straw, a seemingly harmless item that many use as an eco-friendly alternative to plastic, became a deadly weapon in this particular case. Elena's passing highlights how quickly and unexpectedly accidents can occur, even in the most familiar and routine activities. Her death also underscores the unpredictability of accidents and how a simple loss of balance can lead to life-altering consequences. Elena had lived with a spinal deformity for years, managing her condition with strength and courage. Yet, in this rare and tragic accident, something as ordinary as a straw led to a fatal outcome. A celebration gone wrong. During an amateur football match in India, Peter Biaksangzuala, a young and passionate player, scored a goal that would ultimately turn into a tragedy. In the heat of the moment, he decided to celebrate his achievement with a series of backflips, a popular yet risky move for some athletes. On his second flip, Peter landed awkwardly, causing a devastating spinal cord injury. The injury was severe, and despite immediate medical attention and efforts to stabilize him, Peter's condition worsened. Tragically, he succumbed to his injuries later that same day. His death was a heartbreaking reminder of the risks that can accompany even the most innocent of celebrations. While the backflip was meant to showcase his joy and excitement, it turned into a fatal accident that shocked his family, teammates, and the local community. Peter's tragic death underscores the unpredictable nature of accidents and the potential dangers of overly exuberant celebrations in sports. What started as a joyous moment quickly turned into a life-altering event, highlighting how quickly a situation can escalate when caution is disregarded. This incident serves as a somber reminder to athletes and fans alike about the importance of considering safety, even in the midst of celebration. Peter's story also brings to light the need for greater awareness of the potential risks involved in certain athletic moves, such as backflips, which can cause serious injury if not performed correctly. His death, though tragic, sparked conversations about athlete safety and the importance of moderation in celebrating achievements. Wu Bin, the heroic bus driver. On May 29, 2012, Wu Bin, a Chinese long-distance bus driver, displayed remarkable heroism in the face of grave danger. While driving his bus with 24 passengers aboard, a heavy metal fragment from a passing truck shattered the windshield, striking Wu with devastating force. Despite the severe injury he sustained from the impact, Wu's primary concern was the safety of his passengers. In an extraordinary display of selflessness and professionalism, Wu managed to pull the bus over safely, preventing what could have been a catastrophic accident. He made sure that all 24 passengers were unharmed, prioritizing their safety above his own. However, moments after bringing the bus to a stop, Wu collapsed from the injuries he had suffered. He was rushed to the hospital, but despite the medical team's best efforts, he succumbed to his injuries a few days later. Wu Bin's quick thinking and heroic actions undoubtedly saved the lives of everyone on board that day. His selflessness in ensuring the safety of others, even at the cost of his own life, earned him posthumous honors and recognition as a national hero in China. The tragedy of his death was tempered by the incredible bravery he demonstrated during those final moments. A plane crash, narrowly averted. In Fort Lauderdale, a plane crash on December 1, 2018 almost resulted in a terrible tragedy. Ladio Marquez was piloting a small Cessna aircraft when it encountered a severe engine failure shortly after takeoff. The sudden malfunction forced Marquez to attempt an emergency landing, but as he struggled to control the aircraft, the plane crashed into a therapy center for children with autism. Miraculously, moments before the crash, the 5 children inside the therapy center were evacuated safely, avoiding a potential catastrophe.
None of the 8 adults and 5 kids inside were injured, but 2 people died aboard that plane.
However, the building was not spared. Shortly after the plane collided with the structure, it erupted into flames, engulfing the therapy center in a deadly inferno. The quick action of the staff and responders ensured that the children were all safe, but the damage to the building and the plane was significant. Investigations into the cause of the crash revealed that the plane's engine failure was the result of poor maintenance and inadequate upkeep. The engine had not been properly maintained, and several issues had gone unaddressed, contributing to the tragic event. This negligence ultimately led to the dangerous malfunction that nearly claimed lives, but also highlighted the miraculous survival of the children and the resilience of those involved in the evacuation. A hidden danger beneath the floor. Dorothy Louise Downey's visit to her daughter's home in Salem ended in a tragic and fatal accident. On the day of the incident, Dorothy was helping her daughter with packing, a seemingly routine task. As she moved around the house, she stepped on what appeared to be a normal floorboard. However, the board was rotted and it gave way beneath her feet, causing her to fall through a concealed 15-meter deep well hidden beneath the floor. The fall was sudden and unexpected, and Dorothy found herself trapped in the well, struggling to escape. Her daughter immediately called for help, and rescue efforts were launched as soon as possible. However, due to the depth and the difficulty of accessing the well, the rescue operation took a grueling 4 hours. Despite the best efforts of the responders, Dorothy could not be saved in time, and she tragically passed away from the injuries sustained during the fall. This heartbreaking incident highlights the hidden dangers that can exist in older structures. The well, which had been concealed beneath the rotted floorboard, was an unseen hazard that posed a deadly risk. It serves as a reminder of the importance of regular inspections and maintenance in older homes, as unseen structural issues can lead to devastating accidents. Dorothy's tragic death underscores how dangerous even seemingly ordinary activities, like helping with packing, can become when unexpected hazards are present. It also raises awareness about the risks of neglecting home repairs and the potential dangers that can remain hidden in the infrastructure of aging buildings. Disaster on the Francis Scott Key Bridge. On March 26, 2024, a devastating disaster struck near Baltimore when the cargo ship Dolly suffered a catastrophic electrical failure while approaching the Francis Scott Key Bridge. The failure caused the ship to lose control, and despite the crew's efforts to steer it, the vessel collided with the central arch of the iconic bridge. The impact of the collision was severe, and the central arch of the bridge collapsed under the force. Trapping 6 workers who were on the structure at the time. In the aftermath of the collision, rescue teams rushed to the scene, working against the clock to free the workers from the debris. Tragically, despite their best efforts, all 6 workers lost their lives, unable to be saved from the wreckage in time. The scene was heart-wrenching, and the loss of these lives marked a grim chapter in the history of the bridge. The investigation into the incident revealed that the ship's electrical failure was not a sudden malfunction, but rather the result of long-overlooked maintenance issues. The ship's electrical system had been poorly maintained, and previous reports had highlighted potential problems that were never properly addressed. This oversight ultimately led to the failure that caused the ship to lose power and veer off course, resulting in the tragic collision. In addition to the loss of life, the damage caused by the crash was extensive. The collapse of the bridge's central arch led to $3 billion in damages, making it one of the most costly infrastructure disasters in recent history. The explosive cost of negligence. On December 24, 2022, a catastrophic explosion rocked the town of Boksburg, South Africa. Early in the morning, a fuel tanker carrying 60,000 liters of liquefied petroleum gas, LPG, got stuck beneath a railroad bridge. The driver, who had mistakenly taken a wrong turn, was trapped when the truck's back hit the underside of the bridge. As he assessed the damage, the tanker began to leak, and the driver attempted to alert emergency services and secure the area. Despite the driver's efforts and the assistance of a private security guard and bystanders, the fire ignited at 6:45 a.m. As firefighters worked to contain the blaze, the tanker exploded at 7:05 a.m. in a massive blast. Followed by smaller explosions. A fourth and final explosion occurred at 7:30 a.m., devastating everything within a 400-meter radius and even shaking the ground as far as 4 kilometers away. The explosion claimed the lives of 41 people, including hospital staff and patients from the nearby Tambo Memorial Hospital. The blast also caused severe damage to buildings, vehicles, and the hospital's emergency unit, which had to relocate patients. The damage was so extensive that the hospital couldn't assist the injured immediately. In the aftermath, investigations were launched, with the truck driver initially facing charges. However, these were later dropped due to insufficient evidence, leading to widespread outrage. The incident sparked debates on safety regulations, transport of hazardous goods, and municipal responsibility. The tragedy led to national and international condolences, as well as calls for improved safety measures. The explosion was not only a loss of lives, but a wake-up call for the country's transport and emergency response systems. A fiery airport collision. A catastrophic accident occurred on January 2, 2024, while Flight 516 was performing a routine landing at Haneda Airport in Tokyo. The commercial flight, carrying numerous passengers, collided with a Coast Guard plane that was on the runway. The collision sent shockwaves through the airport, turning a normal landing into chaos. while the passengers of Flight 516 were able to evacuate through emergency slides. The Coast Guard plane caught fire, adding to the horror of the situation. Fortunately, all the passengers on Flight 516 managed to survive the crash, but the Coast Guard crew did not fare as well. Of the 6 crew members on board the Coast Guard plane, 5 tragically perished in the flames. The loss of life among the Coast Guard personnel was a devastating consequence of the crash, highlighting the severity of the collision and the risks faced by those in aviation. The investigation into the disaster revealed that the cause of the accident was rooted in communication errors and staffing shortages, particularly prevalent during the busy holiday season. The holiday rush often places additional strain on airport operations, and in this case, the lack of proper coordination between the planes and air traffic control was a critical factor in the tragedy. The failure to ensure clear communication and adequate staffing at such a high-traffic airport led to the deadly mistake. The Haneda Airport tragedy emphasizes the necessity of ongoing attention to detail, especially during busy periods, to guarantee the security of both passengers and crew. Investigators have called for stricter protocols and more resources during busy seasons to prevent future accidents and avoid the loss of lives. A deadly religious gathering. A religious sermon delivered by Guru Bolab Baba in India on July 2, 2024, tragically descended into chaos. The event, which was expected to draw a sizable crowd, attracted far more attendees than anticipated, leading to overcrowding. The venue had a permitted capacity of 5,000 people, but the actual number of attendees far exceeded this limit, resulting in a dangerous situation. The intense heat added to the perilous conditions, creating an environment ripe for disaster. As the sermon proceeded, the large crowd became restless, and many followers surged forward in an attempt to get closer to the guru. This mass movement, combined with the overcrowded conditions, caused a deadly stampede. People were crushed underfoot, and in the chaos, many were trampled or suffocated. Tragically, 60 people lost their lives in the stampede, with most of the victims being women and children. The scale of the tragedy highlighted the severe consequences of inadequate crowd control measures. The event, which was intended to be a religious gathering, turned into a heartbreaking catastrophe due to poor planning and oversight. There was a critical failure to account for the large number of people attending and to ensure that proper safety measures were in place. The significance of crowd control at major events is brought home by this tragedy. It underscores the need for authorities and organizers to implement strict safety protocols, especially in situations where large gatherings are expected. Measures such as crowd barriers, proper crowd flow management, and timely evacuation plans are essential in preventing such catastrophic incidents. The loss of so many innocent lives due to overcrowding and poor safety measures is a devastating reminder of the responsibility organizers bear to ensure the safety and well-being of attendees at public events. The surfer's tragic end. In May 2004, Jacob Cockle, a British surfer, set out to film a humorous water stunt in Cornwall, England. Known for his adventurous spirit, Jacob wanted to create a funny video by attempting an extreme stunt involving a dangerous whirlpool. Despite receiving warnings about the perilous nature of the whirlpool, especially during low tide, Jacob was undeterred. His determination to capture the wave on film, combined with a lighthearted touch — he wore a horse mask for comedic effect — made the stunt seem more playful than risky. Jacob had spent over 10 years performing water stunts, and his experience in the water gave him the confidence that he could handle the risks. He was accompanied by his 70-year-old friend David, who helped with the props and filmed the stunt from the shore. Despite the whirlpool's reputation for being dangerous, Jacob felt that his experience and preparedness would allow him to safely tackle the challenge. However, things quickly took a tragic turn when Jacob dove into the water. The whirlpool, which forms during low tide in that area, is far more powerful than it appears, with a strong pull that can drag swimmers beneath the surface. Jacob was sucked into an underground tunnel, pulling him under the water and trapping him in a maelstrom of mud and debris. David, who had been filming, initially did not realize what had happened. But as time passed and Jacob failed to resurface, panic set in. David searched frantically for Jacob, but the situation quickly escalated into a desperate attempt to find him. With the help of a passerby, they eventually located Jacob's body. Tragically, it was too late. Despite attempts to revive him, Jacob could not be saved. The very footage he had hoped to create, capturing an exciting and humorous moment, tragically became his final legacy. Jacob's death shocked those who knew him and served as a painful reminder of the unpredictable and deadly forces of nature. Despite his confidence in his skills, the powerful whirlpool proved to be far more dangerous than he could have anticipated, ending his life in a way no one could have foreseen. The railroad tragedy. A famous model and fitness trainer named Greg Plitt was in Burbank, California in January 2015, filming a promotional video by the railroad tracks. Greg was famous for his incredible physique and often filmed himself pushing the limits in extreme conditions. One of his favorite spots for these daring shoots was near active railway tracks. On this particular day, Greg was accompanied by two friends as they prepared for another advertisement. As they filmed, a train began approaching in the distance. Despite the unmistakable sound of the train's warning horn and the obvious danger of standing on the tracks, Greg decided to try to outrun the train. He positioned himself on the tracks, apparently confident in his ability to move out of the way in time. However, in a tragic turn of events, Greg misjudged the timing of the train's approach, and before he could react, the train struck him. The entire incident was caught on video, and the footage, though disturbing, revealed the heart-wrenching final moments of Greg's life. His friends were left in shock as they witnessed the accident unfold, and Greg died from his injuries at the scene. The tragic death of the well-known fitness model and trainer sent shockwaves through the fitness community, as Greg had been a symbol of strength, motivation, and discipline. The reasons behind his fatal mistake remain unclear. Some speculated that he may have been too focused on the video shoot or possibly miscalculated the speed of the approaching train. Others questioned whether he had underestimated the danger in a moment of bravado, pushing himself to take one more risky move for the sake of the shoot. Whatever the cause, Greg's death left many questioning how such a tragic accident could happen to someone so physically capable and aware of his own body. The drowning live stream. In August 2022, Helen Wendy Nyabuto, a young medical worker from Collingwood, Canada, ended her shift at work and decided to unwind by taking a swim in the hotel pool. While enjoying her time, she decided to go live on social media, chatting with her followers as she swam, appearing happy and full of life. At first, everything seemed normal and her followers enjoyed the casual interaction, with Helen sharing her experiences and enjoying the moment. However, within moments, the situation took a sudden and alarming turn. Helen, who had previously seemed to be having a good time, suddenly started thrashing in the water, struggling to keep herself afloat. At first, her followers thought it might have been part of the fun as she continued to move in the water, but it quickly became apparent that something was wrong. Helen cried out for help, but with no one else around to hear her, she continued to fight against the water, trying desperately to survive. The live stream continued, broadcasting Helen's struggle to her followers. Her distress grew more evident as she began to disappear from the camera's view. Her frantic cries for help were the only indication that she was still alive. But as the minutes ticked by, her screams eventually fell silent. For over 3 hours, the stream remained active, but no one could do anything to intervene or save her. It wasn't until later that night that her lifeless body was discovered in the pool. Helen's sudden death shocked those who had been watching her live stream. Despite being a healthy young woman, no one could explain what had happened so quickly. Some speculated that she might have suffered a muscle cramp, a heart attack, or some other medical emergency that led to her drowning. Tragically, her father, living in Kenya, was left devastated by her death, unable to bring her body home due to the high costs of repatriation. The haunting footage of her final moments, showing her desperate fight for survival, circulated online, leaving unanswered questions about the exact cause of her death. Her followers were left shocked and heartbroken, witnessing the tragedy unfold in real time, and the incident raised serious concerns about the dangers of swimming alone without immediate help nearby. The hospital tragedy. Lisa Edwards, a 60-year-old woman with a history of stroke, was in serious health distress when she arrived at a hospital in Knoxville. Her condition was rapidly deteriorating, and after receiving initial care, she was discharged, despite the fact that she still needed medical attention. As her condition worsened, Lisa was sent to a local medical center. However, when she refused to leave the hospital, citing her inability to walk and breathe properly, the staff called the police. The situation soon escalated into a heartbreaking and disturbing incident. Lisa, already physically weak and struggling with her health, was forcibly removed from the hospital by police officers. Despite her visible distress, the officers were skeptical of her condition and dismissed her pleas for help. She repeatedly begged them for assistance, stating that she felt like she was dying, but they ignored her cries. Instead, the officers yelled at Lisa to get up and move, even though it was clear that she was physically unable to do so. The officers then proceeded to drag her toward a police van, continuing to disregard her health and emotional state. Lisa's pleas intensified as she begged for help, but her suffering only worsened as she was pushed and pulled in a state of agony. Eventually, Lisa collapsed from exhaustion and pain, and the officers, still oblivious to the severity of her condition, placed her in the police van and took her to jail. Tragically, on the way to the jail, Lisa lost consciousness. When the officers finally realized that she had stopped breathing, they rushed her back to the hospital. Despite attempts to revive her, Lisa died the following day from complications related to a stroke. Footage from the police body cameras, which captured the officers' unprofessional behavior and disregard for Lisa's suffering, was leaked online, sparking public outrage. The incident led to an investigation. While the officers were not held directly responsible for Lisa's death, they were penalized for their unprofessional and callous behavior. This terrible incident brought to light the perils of disregarding the needs of patients who are at risk, as well as the disastrous results of not giving appropriate care and compassion in dire circumstances. The Pit Biker's Fatal Fall. On November 12, 2022, a group of experienced pit bikers gathered in Abu Duro, Russia, to challenge themselves on the rugged, unpredictable terrain of the area. Among them was Mel Blumenfeld, a seasoned rider with over 24 years of experience in the sport. Mel had seen it all. He was no stranger to the risks and thrills of pit biking, and his skills on the bike were honed by years of practice. Unfortunately, despite his extensive experience, tragedy struck during this particular ride. While navigating a particularly treacherous section of the trail near the edge of a cliff, Mel lost his balance. The steep incline and uneven terrain proved too much, and in an instant, he was sent tumbling down the hill. His fall was violent, and he crashed into the sharp, jagged rocks that lined the base of the cliff. The impact was severe, and tragically, by the time help arrived, Mel had already passed away from his injuries. The accident was captured on video by one of Mel's friends, who was filming the ride as part of their adventure. The footage shows the horrifying moment of the fall, and the video quickly circulated online, serving as a stark reminder of the dangers that come with extreme sports like pit biking. The video, though unintentional in its documentation of such a tragic event, became a chilling testament to the inherent risks of high adrenaline activities. Mel's family and friends, including his 2 children, were devastated by the loss of their father and friend. The sudden and tragic nature of his death left those who knew him in shock, and they were forced to come to terms with the fact that such a skilled and experienced rider could still fall victim to the dangers of the sport. The gym injury that left him paralyzed. Regilanio Riello Silva, a 42-year-old fitness enthusiast, suffered a devastating injury while working out at the gym in August 2023. After completing a strenuous exercise, Riello decided to take a brief rest, sitting on the edge of a machine to catch his breath. Without warning, a 150 kg lever from the machine malfunctioned and fell directly onto his neck. The sheer weight and force of the impact caused a catastrophic spinal injury, immediately leaving Riello in intense pain and unable to move. Panic ensued in the gym as his fellow gym-goers rushed to his aid. They quickly called for emergency medical assistance, but the severity of Riello's injury was clear. Doctors later informed him that his condition was so critical that he had less than a 1% chance of ever walking again. The prognosis was grim, and it seemed that his life, particularly his physical independence, would never be the same. Despite the overwhelming odds stacked against him, Riello refused to give up. He underwent a complex and grueling surgery to stabilize his spine and give him the best possible chance at recovery. Following the surgery, he spent several days in the hospital, recovering from the trauma and grappling with the emotional weight of his situation. However, Riello's determination and resilience remained unwavering. After months of intensive rehabilitation, Rilo began to notice small improvements. Slowly, he regained some sensation in his legs, and though it was a painstaking process, he never lost sight of his goal to walk again. His perseverance paid off when, against all expectations, he took his first steps. Though they were shaky and tentative, they symbolized an incredible victory, a triumph of willpower over adversity. Rilo's recovery journey became an inspiration to many. His story of resilience and hope showed that even in the face of life-altering injuries and seemingly insurmountable odds, recovery is still possible. His unwavering spirit and commitment to overcoming the most difficult challenges have motivated countless individuals facing their own struggles, proving that there is always a chance for a comeback, no matter how dire the situation may seem. The breakup tragedy. In May 2021, 16-year-old Kennedy Littledyke was grappling with the emotional pain of a recent breakup. Her friends, concerned for her well-being, suggested a trip to watch the sunset as a way to distract her from her heartache. However, what started as a moment of escape from her emotions soon turned into an unimaginable tragedy. On the drive home, Kennedy, overwhelmed with grief, suddenly broke down in tears, losing control of the car in the process. The vehicle skidded off the road, crashing violently into a telephone pole. The impact of the collision threw Kennedy from the car, and in an incredibly unlikely turn of events, she became entangled in the telephone wire. This bizarre twist of fate saved her life in the immediate moment, as the wire prevented her from falling to the ground and dying instantly. Despite her survival, Kennedy was left hanging in excruciating pain, critically injured and unable to move. She remained suspended for nearly an hour, in a state of shock, hallucinating and preparing herself mentally for what she feared would be her end. Meanwhile, her friends were also injured, but Kennedy's condition was the most severe. Her friends managed to call for help, but it felt like an eternity before rescuers arrived. When they finally did, Kennedy was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. The medical team worked tirelessly to save her, but the damage was extensive. Kennedy suffered multiple fractures and severe blood loss, putting her life in jeopardy. Despite the odds, she survived, but her road to recovery was long and arduous. Kennedy underwent 21 surgeries, including the difficult decision to amputate one of her legs. This process was emotionally and physically draining, as she struggled to come to terms with her injuries and the loss of a part of her body. However, through rehabilitation, Kennedy found new strength and resilience. Over time, she transformed her tragic experience into a source of inspiration for others. She became a well-known blogger, sharing her journey of survival and healing, empowering others who faced similar challenges to keep going and find hope in even the darkest of times. As we journey through the darkest chapters of history's most tragic incidents, we uncover stories that not only highlight the immense loss, but also the resilience and sorrow that followed. These events, marked by devastation, challenge our understanding of what it means to endure and rebuild. From the devastation of natural disasters to the unimaginable effects of human conflict, each incident leaves behind a legacy that shapes the future. If these stories have moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's continue uncovering the most heart-wrenching moments of our past together.